Who's your favourite character from King of the Hill?
Dale Gribble, without a doubt. Put the clip in. Hank Hill is the quintessential straight guy of animated sitcoms, a character who is most at home selling propane and propane accessories, instead of engaging in any of the other wacky adventures that seem to befall other animated sitcom dads. Something that may have a lot to do with the fact that Hank Hill was originally written to be 50 years old.
So tell me about this early version of Hank Hill and how he was drawn.
Well, this earlier, more geriatric version of Hank Hill looked exactly the same as he does in the final show, and no changes were made to his design to make him look any younger. A sentence that probably requires some explanation, so allow me to do just that. So to explain, when the creator of King of the Hill, Mike Judge, first envisioned the character of Hank Hill, he saw him as being a 50-year-old man, and said as much in his pitch of the show to Fox.
Well, that seems fair enough. That's just the age he wanted his character to be.
I know, but apparently someone at Fox didn't like that, and a couple of weeks after he sent in this pitch of the show, Judge recalls getting a snooty phone call from an executive at Fox kindly informing him that, the average age of Fox's viewership is about 31 years old, so he'd appreciate it if you made, the character of Hank roughly that age too, so our audience can better empathise with him. I'd like to point out, for people who may not have watched much King of the Hill, that Hank Hill is a Texan who loves barbecue, drinking beer, and talking about how good America is. I don't give a fuck how old he is. He could have been 120 years old and made of shark leather. Fox's general viewership would have fucking loved that guy. Not to mention the fact that Homer Simpson, their other most famous character before they sold him to Disney, because apparently now Disney owns all that shit, is technically 60 years old because he was alive and doing things in the 60s, which is one of my favourite things about Simpsons. The floating timeline that it has. Because are you aware of more modern Simpsons? Because not many people watch it. I don't.
I mean, I've seen 1 or 2 episodes from seasons 22 or something, but they're on 30 now, aren't
Yeah,
they?
but have you seen the episode where they reveal that Homer Simpson was in another band?
Yeah, you showed me this. It was like a Nirvana band, wasn't it?
So obviously, because people might not watch Simpsons, there is an episode about the B Sharps, which it's a band that Homer joined, a barbershop quartet, and it's very clearly an allusion to the Beatles, one of which appears in the fucking episode, because George Harrison's in that episode, which obviously would place that episode being in the 60s. They reveal that before Homer formed the B Sharps, he formed a Nirvana-esque grunge band in Seattle, which means that, so Homer made grunge and then joined a barbershop quartet, and this all happened before he gave birth, before obviously Bart was born, who's 10 years old. So 10 years, it's crazy. I think we can all agree that that is fucking bullshit, and it basically ruins the show if you're a fan and you want to try and piece together the mess that is now the timeline of Homer Simpson's life. He was in 2 really successful bands, one of which was in the 60s and one of which was in the 90s, but his son's 10 years old. Also, Lisa's had 3 birthdays, but they celebrate Christmas every single year, and they've been on 14 different holidays, and they've met all these... No, fuck that. This is why I like King of the Hill, because originally the plan was to have every character age up each season, and they did this with the character Joseph, who very noticeably, and there's a focus of an episode about the fact he goes through puberty, and from one season to another he grows a foot taller and gets a little wispy moustache, and they were told by Fox again, cut that shit out, it's really confusing. Because obviously the plan was the characters age as the seasons go on, people get older and they mature, but Fox says, well, now we can't sell it in syndication. Because if we have an episode and someone airs an episode from later where one character's older, it won't make any sense.
Yeah, but they do that with sitcoms anyway.
Exactly, they do. But this is an animated show, so keep everything consistent. And again, Judge was really pissed off about this. It's but we were doing something basically unique for a cartoon and animated show, and having a character age. I think the only other show I can think of that does it is South Park, where they go up a year every now and again, and then Adventure Time. I think the main character in that has aged as well, but because they did it with the voice actor for Finn, as he's gotten older, they've aged the character up with him.
I think South Park have only aged once. They went up to 4th grade in season 4 or 5. But South Park in the later seasons have started doing serial episodes.
They have, yes.
Where they've got, obviously, there's the same issue where in syndication, if you watch a later episode in that season...
It doesn't make any sense, Yeah,
but they only did that, I think, for 1 or 2 seasons. Then they did where they've got ongoing plots, but each episode is still individual.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they were told off for it.
The thing is, like, no one's going to tell Matt and Trey what the fuck to do. They can basically do what they want, because that show is just like such a money spinner for Comedy Central. But I think the fact that the examples we can come up with are so convoluted in their explanation, like, highlights how rare this is in animated shows. I think one of the complaints the people who make King of the Hill had about this is that, well, it stops us from ever, like, maturing the characters and having, like, interesting storylines, because now every episode has to be self-contained. So basically we're forced to just write like skits basically instead of a story, and that's not great. And I think even people who've made the show said the show is worse in the later seasons because we were forced basically to just make standalone episodes that could be entertaining on their own.
I love it when cartoons have like running plot threads though. I always rave about that Scooby-Doo series.
Oh, fuck's sake. Shut up about this Scooby-Doo.
The reason I'm mentioning it is there's one episode where Shaggy gets a shaved head.
Okay.
And over the next 3 or 4 episodes, it grows back.
See, that's cool.
Which is really cool.
Do you want to give the name of this Scooby-Doo thing?
It's Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
You never stop talking about Scooby-Doo Mystery. And what's your favourite part about Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated in regards to the characterisation of Fred?
It's because Fred is obsessed with traps.
And he's also in a relationship with Daphne, who is annoyed about the fact Fred is obsessed with traps.
The thing is, when I first heard about the way that this series was going, because it's the only Scooby-Doo series, as far as I'm aware, that has an ongoing plot throughout both seasons and character development. And I thought it was weird, because I remember the thread in the first episode is Shaggy and Velma are seeing each other in secret.
They finally did it. Shaggy's fucking.
But Shaggy doesn't want to tell Scooby because he thinks he'll be upset because he's spending more time with someone else. And eventually Velma's like, you have to pick one of us. And he picks Scooby.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just throw it out there that, as good as that sounds, the best fucking Scooby-Doo series is What's New Scooby-Doo, Get Fucked, and that's because...
I'll fight you.
Simple Plan did the soundtrack to that one.
They also did it in the movie.
They did, yes, because they... Do you ever hear how that came about?
No.
Like, when they were making the show, they were shopping around for bands who'd do it, and then, like, they asked Simple Plan, yeah, we'll do it. So what, we love Scooby-Doo, we don't care, we'll do it. And I think they're in one episode as well.
Oh, that's cool.
The thing is, have you seen how many celebrities have appeared in, like, Scooby-Doo? Because they fucking love the show. There's, like, the WrestleMania episode. John Cena's in it. And that episode is an amazing, like, time capsule. Because at the time, they were trying to push Sin Cara. And obviously he's this wrestler who's botched everything he did and then got done on like a drugs charge. So they just got rid of him. But he's like every time he appears, like it's complete silence. And it's like Mexican flourish of instrumentals. And he's appears. So, oh right. And then that character just died and disappeared forever. Oh man, Scooby-Doo's met everyone.
Scooby-Doo's amazing. Like the number of films and episodes. And did you ever see the season? It was just Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy. And every episode was them finding a real haunting.
You mentioned
and then
Scrappy.
Getting scared and running away.
You mentioned Scrappy now. No one watches it with Scrappy on. Do you ever, like, people hate Scrappy so much? Like, Tim Curry was supposed to be in the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah.
And he dropped out when he found out Scrappy was in it. And they asked him why, like, fuck Scrappy, and just refused to be in the movie.
I suppose they couldn't reveal at that point that Scrappy was an antagonist.
Yeah,
so.
But they said he's going to be in it. He went, no, fuck this movie, and refused to be in it. But that leads quite handily onto King of the Hill, and they have a lot of guest stars in that. And one of my favourites, they have Danny Trejo as like a recurring character in the series, and he just plays like just this as a fucking janitor. But then they have like a proper like gangster Mexican character who I think is voiced by a white guy. So they have Danny Trejo, an actual hardened criminal in a former life before he like found acting, on set, and they make him voice a fucking janitor.
Oh, that's great.
Man. It's great. That show is amazing. Like, you said you've not seen it, so you need to watch some clips.
Yeah, I'll be watching some clips for this.
You need to watch some Bobby Hill clips. The episode where he takes a woman's self-defense class and he learns that the ultimate defense technique is to kick people in the nuts. And then he tries it on his mum, but she ain't got nuts, so she just chases him around the garden. Fucking brilliant.
So what happened with Judge, Fox, and the Hank Hill drawing?
Well, understandably, Judge got really annoyed, especially considering, like, you know, Fox's demographic it airs on the older side, so he was suspected that they might be lying, so, like, they want to attract a new hip young audience. Also, Hank Hill is a fucking drawing at the end of the day. So what he did is he got the same drawing he'd submitted a few weeks earlier, with the note saying Hank Hill describing the character, he's roughly 50 years old, he's from Texas, he sells propane. Submitted that with the same description, but wrote at the bottom, okay, he's 34. And Fox approved it without any issue, and nobody ever brought it up ever again. Well, I fucking love it, man. Are you aware of all the memes about Hank Hill going around?
I've seen a few.
Oh man, my favourite one is that people keep putting him in like wrestling games. Like they call it Hank Hell. He brings the propane. It's like, yes. And there's a lot of like little tidbits about Hank in the show that I fucking adore. One of which is that he has this rare medical condition where he doesn't have an ass. Like, because he's like, if you look at the drawing behind me, people, like he doesn't have a pronounced like, derriere, and that's an actual medical problem he has, and he's really self-conscious about because he can't fill out a pair of jeans.
Can he not wear a belt because it'll just slide down?
No, he wears a belt, but he just haven't got an ass, and everyone makes fun of him for it. And there's like the thing as well, he used to be like a football player, and he always says, I'm going to kick your fucking ass, and everyone always backs down immediately when Hank threatens them, and I love that idea. And that's the whole thing of like dad strength, isn't it, where even though like you can get taller and stronger than your dad, you're still scared, you still think you could whoop your fucking ass. And I love that they bring that into the show of everyone Hank Hill threatens to kick the crap out of immediately backs down, despite the fact he's just a man who sells propane.
It's because he'll bring the propane, isn't it?
And there's another running joke throughout the series where he fucking loves propane. So it is the optimum cooking thing for like meat, and all his family secretly love cooking on charcoal. And they're so scared.
That's an amazing joke.
Of admitting that it tastes better that they eat the propane steaks. And then I think as well, before we go, the best line he ever did, where he's teaching his son how to make a steak, and he goes, "Here's how I tell if it's here's how I tell if it's like medium. Here's how I tell if it's rare." And his son goes, "But Dad, what do we do if someone wants a well done steak? We politely but firmly ask them to leave." Fucking fantastic.
Going back to cartoons.
Yes.
Can you think of any more examples of cartoons where characters or events and things change through episodes and those changes stay?
There's only a few, and usually there are exceptions that prove the rule. Obviously, The Simpsons we've already torn apart from like a terrible floating timeline, but there are a few things in that that show that have stayed consistent over the years. I think one of which is Lisa being a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Because it was originally going to be a one-episode thing, and Paul McCartney was going to be in the episode, and he got really annoyed about the idea of vegetarianism, something he feels very strongly about, being like a one-episode thing. So he insists that Lisa has to be a vegetarian for as long as the show runs, and to get him to appear on the show, they did that. And I think as well as a favour for doing that, he did re-record a new version of the song he mentions with the recipe for lentil soup in the background.
There's also, like, in The Simpsons as well, Sideshow Bob's incarceration.
Yeah.
That was something that happened early on and continued.
And I think there's a few characters who died.
Yeah,
like
Maud.
Maud, and Joe, why she died? Because the actress wanted a pay rise.
Whee!
Yeah, because she lived really, really far away, and she said, "Can I get a pay rise to, the cost of me getting to the studio?" And they said, "No, we'll kill you off instead." So it turns out a lot of these, permanent changes in The Simpsons were done to just be basically dick moves.
Same thing with Chef, actually, wasn't it? Isaac Hayes didn't want to be in it anymore.
Because of Scientology.
Yeah.
It was Scientology told him, basically, don't do this show, and they made fun of our religion. I think Matt and Trey came out and said, well, he had no problem cashing a check ripping on every other religion, and now it's his, he wants to make an exception. So they killed him off by having him shit his pants after falling down a thing.
Yeah, he basically got pulled away to a cult that brainwashes you into doing things you don't want to do.
And they used, because he wouldn't record the episode, they used very obviously voice clips of him earlier. Oh, you know what? That's well played. Well fucking played for that one.
But I can't think of many cartoons where characters age, but I can think of ones where they've done later ones where they've aged them.
Yeah, Rugrats all grown up.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
And that's the one where Dill's like an idiot savant and he invents pillow shoes. I watched a lot of that show because it was on Nickelodeon when I got in from school.
I watched it, but I don't remember. All I remember is that Tommy had hair.
Yeah, oh god, it freaks you the fuck out. And that
but they used the same voice actors, didn't they? But they made them sound a bit older.
They made them age themselves up a little bit. But I think that's what they do for South Park as well. Do you know what Randy is? Randy is, I forget who plays the voice of Randy. It's Matt or Trey. And that's his normal speaking voice, and then they raise it 2 octaves for Stan.
Oh.
Yeah, so they make it sound like a child's voice. Well, I think South Park's probably the king of changes that stay permanent. Because there's one where it reveals that Randy is actually Lord.
They bring it up.
And they keep bringing it up, do you know how many albums I have to record to pay for what you did? It's 1. Yes. It's what a stupid thing to maintain.
It's in the later seasons because Randy now also lives on a weed farm. They've moved away from
I've
South
not watched
Park.
much late South Park.
No, there's also a huge. I'm not going to say because it technically is a spoiler, but they've killed off an incredibly main character in the later seasons.
I think American Dad did that once too. They had the episode where they were going to kill off 100 characters in one episode, and they kill off 100 side characters that appeared in previous episodes all in one go. And it's like, well, fucking go for it, I suppose.
I don't know which. It might be The Simpsons, but there's a cartoon where they have a wall of dead characters. And the idea is The Simpsons, yeah. So that they can look at it and go, don't include these people in the background. Because obviously it's a continuity issue, even though there isn't a continuity in it.
The Simpsons do it. It's like Dr. Marvin Monroe and Bleeding Gums Murphy and all those characters. Like, they are canonically dead. I think like Miss Krabappel,
I think, did they kill the character? I think the actress died.
The actress died.
Brought out the character.
I think so, and then brought her back with someone else. The lunch lady Doris died. Right, a lot of it just comes like the voice actor just stops working or just like quits or dies.
This has been going for so long.
And it's like you can't really replace them. Because I think there was a bit where like, Harry Shearer was like saying, I want to go be in other shows. Because part of his contract is you can't do other shit. It's like, well, The Simpsons pays a lot of money, but I kind of want to be in other shows. But I'm Mr. Burns. And he threatened to quit. And there was like a rumour going around they were just going to cobble together. Like, because obviously he recorded so many thousands of hours as Mr. Burns that they could just cobble some shit together and make it work.
Like the chef thing.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that for new Toy Story. Have you heard that?
You mentioned this, actually.
Don Pickles, the voice of, who's it now? Mr. Potato Head.
Mr. Potato Head, yeah.
His family specifically asked Disney, like, he loved being Mr. Potato Head. Can you, like, do something? And this is amazing. They tracked down literally every single piece of voice acting he ever did for them, including like stuff like the video games and the ice shows and like the theme park rides. And they're cobbling together like basically just a couple of lines for Mr. Potato Head so he can be in the movie.
Yeah, finding the lines of dialogue that will work in the situations where he's supposed to talk.
Yeah, but they're not doing that for the guy who played Mr. Slinky.
No, just got his brother in, wasn't
Yeah. So fucking hell. And on that note, let's call an end to this one.